Hi, David.
Hello, Rupert. Good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you.
Um,
Your name is very familiar. Your,
um, I was on your retreat in October 2015 at the Mercy Center,
oh, okay,
and
that's yes.
and I've also been organizing some hangouts with folks who
Okay,
appreciate
yes.
your teachings.
I remember you from the Mercy Centre. Your face was
Right.
familiar. Yes.
And that's part of what I wanted to talk about. And I thought it was really interesting that we've uh, there have been some questions from other folks that sort of opened up some space here for me to ask you about this. Natalie, the first woman you spoke to, talked about how she felt that certain energy being in a meeting with a group of folks, and how she's been meeting with a friend and sort of continuing that sense of presence. And Jillian um, was looking for a way to access a teacher individually. And of course, we live in this really remarkable age where there is access to all these remarkable teachings, but there are not enough teachers. And those teachers who are there certainly don't have the time to address things with individuals in the way perhaps that you had Francis as your teacher and you spent time with him. And
Yes.
I think if I came and knocked on your door in Oxford, you'd probably invite me in for tea, but you'd expect me to leave after that.
I would certainly invite you in for tea. Yes.
um, so one of the things that was so wonderful for me when I went on your retreat was the fact that they are social. That there's this feeling of comfort around all the other folks, and so that was sort of the impetus for these hangouts that I started, and we've sort of been meeting about every 2 weeks online, um, and sharing that sense of presence together
Yes.
since then. So, one of the questions that keeps coming up for me is is that a more likely route? I guess the question is, what do you think of the possibility of groups of people gathering together without a guiding teacher, so that it is flatter, it is more peer to peer?
Yes.
And how do you see that playing out? Is that a
Yes.
likely? How would that compare compared to, for instance, this webinar where we focus our attention on you and our questions
Yes.
on you and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Just curious.
I encourage, as you probably remember from the retreat, David.
Yes.
Well, first of all, the reason why on my retreats, and I know there are many people here that have been on my retreats, the reason why we don't meditate from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, but rather we have two meetings with lots of space in between, is
Right.
precisely and the reason why we don't do silent retreats is to precisely to encourage this social interaction between people. Now, when I say social interaction, I, I mean to allow people to be together, to share, to communicate, to explore, to express, to spend time together, talking, walking, well, in whatever
Mm-hmm.
way,
Right.
because that is a way, that is one of the vehicles of the teaching.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the Buddha himself, didn't he say something like the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the
Yes.
teacher, the teaching, and the community? These are the three vehicles. And so the community of friends that grows up around a teacher or around a teaching is itself a vehicle of the teaching. And particularly as the teaching develops and as over the years a group of friends gather in friendship round a teaching, the community itself becomes more and more powerful and represents the teaching. This was something I learned very much from the years that I spent very close to Francis. To begin with, he was very much my focus of attention. I would go to his retreats and I would be exclusively focused on him. But as over the years, as I relaxed and I wasn't hanging on every word he said, the field of my attention broadened. I was more open to friendships with other people. And in the end, going to retreats, I was going equally for the friendship as I was to see Francis. In fact, I couldn't really, in other words, Francis, I never, of course, I never lost my particular love and respect for him, but it was as if he merged into the larger group of friends who had grown around him. And it was like one body, like one family that he was very much part of and obviously in the center of. But I wasn't going exclusively for him. Indeed, I wasn't going exclusively for the teaching anymore. I had heard the teaching hundreds of times. I had explored it inside out. I was going, in fact, I couldn't really find a reason for going anymore. I was just going to be with the people that I loved, who shared my love of truth and beauty. And so I came to appreciate over the years the importance and the potency of friendship in this in spiritual life. And so then when I started speaking about these matters, I noticed that slowly the same kind of quality began to develop. Some people just come for one retreat and they don't come back again, but others stayed and formed a little nucleus, and others joined and were attracted, not just by me and the teaching, but by the community of friends. And now, after many years, we have, as you experienced, a truly beautiful community of friends around the world, which is itself a vehicle, an expression of the teaching. And as you rightly said, in this internet age, the community of friends is also a virtual community. And hence your online hangout group, I think, is a wonderful thing. And I encourage it very much. I hope it's advertised on my website. If it's not, please. It is.
Yes, yes, it is. It's listed on the same page as other local meeting groups.
Lovely. Well, I encourage people to meet in person locally and to meet in online in this kind of forum, and not necessarily to sit silent and motionless in a chair listening to a meditation. You may do that for 20 minutes, but just to gather together, to enjoy a meal together, to go for a walk together. In other words, to share your being, not just to share your thoughts. It's really the shared being that is the heart of our meeting. So yes, I encourage it. I think what you're doing is great. I support it. I'm glad you're on the website, and I would encourage you to keep doing it.
Thank you so much, Rupert.
Perhaps, sorry to interrupt you, David.
Go ahead.
Because you're online, every now and then Ruth might mention in the newsletter that there's an online group.
Oh, okay. I may nudge her about that. No, that's a very beautiful answer. I actually went looking in your books and couldn't find anything that really directly addressed the whole, friendship issue. I know your books are much more focused on the teaching. So I don't, somehow I'd like that. I've heard that message from you at the retreat and in other bits and pieces here and there. But I think it's something that perhaps people need to hear, that there are other ways to gather in this way.
Well, you're right, David. That's probably the sort of thing that I would talk about at a meeting, such as this, or a retreat. And barely a retreat goes by when I don't mention the community of friends in some way. But my books are rather more like the distilled essence of the teaching.
Sure.
So I'm less likely to speak of it in a book, but actually there's a case for mentioning it in a book as well. So let's see what happens.
Maybe your next book. Thank you so much, Rupert. I appreciate it. Your beautiful response.
Nice to see you again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey.